Okay, so I think we'll kick things off talking about not so much the racing. We'll get to that in a minute. But what did you think about Jenson Button being in the commentary in place of Martin Brundle?
Look, I'm going to be honest, I didn't really notice that much of a difference. I guess you could say. I wondered to myself about halfway through the race, I thought, where is Martin? He's not here. But then I worked it out after I realised Johnny Herbert had done the grid walk. Um, Look, some people got their opinion on JB. I think he's a fresh set of ideas, more modern links to the racing, I guess, um, than what Martin can bring to it. I mean, if you get it, in all honesty, I'd rather it be Martin and JB, get rid of Crofty, because I just think he dribbles on at times and just gets too excited about pathetic little shit things that happen. I'd rather, in all honesty, see Martin and JB together.
That's an interesting point, actually. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way. My initial thought was, hearing JB on the commentary was like, well, I am a kind of a Jenson Button fan. Well, I was. I'll even prove how much of a fan I am. I even have him up on my wall. There you go. There's JB. Everybody,
Yeah, leave
everybody
it
say
there. It's a
hello
bit
to
of look.
Jensen. Uh, uh, Thanks, mate. Yeah, like it was so refreshing to hear his voice and his opinion from kind of a driver's point of view. I know Martin Brundle is was an ex, he is an ex Formula One driver, but he's kind of got. I find he's got a bit stale over the years. But I just thought it was really refreshing to hear him on the commentary. I think people would have mixed opinions. I know if we threw it out to the group, people might not agree with us, but I found him really refreshing to have him alongside Crofty. But I do hear what you're saying. It would be better if it was Jenson Button and Martin Brundle instead of Crofty. So yeah, we'll see what the powers of the internet can do, and maybe that will come true someday. Um, Alpine, Alpine. Uh, there was some great racing from Alpine between Ocon and Alonso. Uh, I I said in a previous podcast that I wanted to get back to the edge of my seat, shouting at the TV. I can absolutely tell you that that happened today for Saudi Arabia. It started around, there was a lot of TV coverage around Ocon and Alonso, and I just thought, oh man, this is brilliant. This is just, and then I think they went to uh, Zafnauer on the pit wall, and even when he came back and he said, no, we're going to let the guys race for the first part of the race. It was just music to my ears. I think even Jenson Button thanked him for giving us racing. It was just brilliant. What were your thoughts?
I thought it was just great to see, a bit of action. I mean, I can't say I was disappointed it was between those two drivers as such. Um, I I thought Ocon probably hung it out too long and just didn't concede as the junior driver in the team. And obviously, if it had all gone pear shaped, you'd have to face Otmar and say, "You look sorry, I stuffed up." But it was good to see some actual racing going on. But um, I think it proves that the Alpine car for this season is probably going to be at least a decent performer because they showed what they can do. Sadly, until Nando cooked his and had to retire it. But I think it brings into that argument: DRS. Should we keep DRS, or should we get rid of DRS and just let them fight it out, or do we just have DRS at certain tracks, not have it all the time? That's one thing that's open for debate.
Yeah, um, I still don't know how I feel about DRS. It definitely provided some good overtaking. It gave Max the lead at the end of the race strategically. Um, he knows full well how to play those DRS zones. But we won't go back to last year's Saudi Arabia race. But he definitely knows
No.
how to play them to his advantage. I was actually screaming at the TV at one point, like, why are you passing him in the first DRS zone and then letting him pass you in the second DRS zone? Why don't you hold back, get a really close toe? I was saying it to Zara, my 10-year-old. She was watching the race with me, and I said he needs to get into the out of the first DRS, into that last corner, that last kind of, that last tight corner, and then be on his tail and overtake him, and then pull away from him for the rest of the lap. And he kind of only did it like 2 laps or 1 lap before the end, but he nailed it. Whether we should keep DRS, I'm really still on the fence. I think without it, it would have been a different race today. So I think I'm leaning towards keeping it, if I'm honest. Um, yeah, I think I'm leaning towards keeping it. Would you get rid of it?
I suppose I'm at the. My argument is we're used to it now. Some people, scream and say, "Yeah, look, we're going to get rid of it. We're going to get rid of it." I wasn't a fan of groove tyres when they were trying to change the cars 10 years ago, and they had groove tyres, or even longer, probably. But I think
Mm.
DRS is here. I mean, they've integrated it into this current new rigs. I don't think it's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. We just have to put up with it for what it is, and the racing spectacle, some will say, that it brings about. But um, I think if you look back over history, if we didn't have DRS for the last 10 years or so, the the history books would be very different.
Yeah, I think we all asked. Well, I'm pretty sure we all asked for close racing. That was pretty much the mandate that Ross Brawn and Pat Simmons had when developing these new regulations and these new cars, was to give us close racing. I don't really care too much how we get there as long as we have close racing, which we had today. Now, albeit we had a couple of safety cars. I think we had 2 safety cars. Oh no, we had 1 safety car and 1 virtual safety car. Um, we had like 5 or 6 retirements. I don't know what happened to Bottas. I'm due to find. I need to go digging and find. We're actually recording this podcast literally 5 minutes after the race. The podium ceremony is actually still on, and we decided to jump straight onto the mics and record the podcast because it's quite early in the morning for you. The mandate was close
Yeah, I
racing.
think
Like, we must have close racing, and I think there was plenty of it today. And whether it was yeah, I don't know what happened to Bottas, but we had like 5 or 6 retirements, which were mainly, they seem to be in power unit problems. Um, it's given that there hasn't been a lot of updates really been put into power units in these regulations. The only real major difference is the fuel. That's the real. Most of these regulation changes this year is around the aerodynamics, um, and the wheels and that kind of thing. The engines are fairly as they were, um, but a lot of the aerodynamics has changed the way the side pods um, interact with the car. And if you look at cars that have gone for uh, um, or maybe not. I won't. I won't actually go down that road. I'll edit that out. Um, some cars are having cooling problems. Some cars are not. It was good to see Norris in McLaren getting a P7, but Ricciardo retired and just like that, downshifted a couple of gears, went to put his foot down on the power, and no power, and that's a Mercedes engine. So it's been dominant for a long time. Like, why suddenly are we having issues? So would you see possibly a situation where we go back to the standard fuel, or is that not possible now?
I can't say it's walking away from the E10. I think they're just going to keep going further with the higher ethanol blend, because they've committed to it. It's mandated. They've got to go greener. They've got to steer away from burning fossil fuels as much as they can. So I think the E10's here to stay, and I think Mercedes have just got to work out, with Petronas or their technical department in Brackley and just work out what are we going to do to get through this issue. I mean, Zach was more than happy to, sign Mercedes up as the engine supplier and say, look, I'm getting the best power unit that money can buy. And second season into the contract, and it's all gone ass up for them, and it's just not working. I mean, Toto on the grid admitted to the Sky Sports guys, he said, look, we went in with a setup for quality, and it was an experiment that failed, didn't work. Was it the aero setup, or was it an engine mapping setup to try and overcome the fuel issue? I mean, clearly it's working for George. But, I mean, if you look at the two Williams there at the back of the Aston Martins, I mean, I know what's going on with them. I mean, clearly Hulk just can't work out how the car works, or, and Stroll, he can't get his shit together with the car either, I don't know. But I think Mercedes are really starting to ask some hard questions themselves, especially Toto, looking at the result. I mean, Lewis came in 10th to get 1 point. So for them, it's just a disaster of a weekend. I mean, Lewis is their driver. They're not as concerned with whatever George does. He's just there to fill the second seat and push the pedals.
It was actually quite funny that Lewis came on the radio in the cool down lap, and when Bono had told him that was P10, he actually didn't know if there was points for P10 or not, which was funny. And I think another funny thing is, this whole E10 fuel and trying to be eco-friendly with fuel consumption at the same time as an oil refinery burning away in the background. I just find there's a joke in there somewhere. I just can't bring myself to put the whole thing together, but there's a bit of irony there, burning a fuel depot and at the same time trying to save fuel in race cars is I thought it was funny. I'm going to move on to Ferrari customer engines. They all seem to be doing well, don't they? I mean, like, the majority, whether it's Haas or you look at Alfa Romeo, the Ferraris obviously themselves. Like, I know Bottas had a retirement, and okay, Mick Schumacher got a bit unlucky in qualifying, but those engines are really, really, really performing well.
I think it's a testament to the Scuderia, whatever they've done with their engine, even as you said, the customer engine. I mean, look at what Freddie Vasseur must be sitting on that grid wall thinking, we're really turning some results. I mean, Guanyan Zhou, I mean, it's his only second race, and he's come in 11th. I mean, sure, he got a penalty. That turned into a stop go after his 5-second penalty didn't come together, but still, as a rookie driver, he's delivering for Alfa Romeo. I forget what he did. He did something to warrant getting a 5-second penalty, but the thing is, when you look at the strength of him, K-Mag's come out of nowhere and he's delivering good results again. Again, here at Rowdy Arabia, he's delivered a great result. He's in the points. Mick's accident aside, Mick was running P9 in Q2, so I mean, he was delivering good results himself. So I think it shows the strength of the customer engine plus Haas plus Alfa Romeo as the customer. They're getting the chassis and they're getting their setup right to match the engine. The thing is, I mean, Leclerc and Sainz are just delivering powerful lap after lap after lap. And I think Max really had to stretch that so-called Honda engine that he's got in the back of his Red Bull. He had to push the limit of it to just keep in front of Leclerc and race him, as we saw. But, I think the engine, if you came into this sport now and you said, look, I want a Formula One engine, you'd be going to Maranello and saying, can you fix me up a couple of units, because it's the engine to have this season.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on Williams? I personally, I'm personally really starting to kind of want Latifi gone out of F1. He's making too many mistakes. He's hitting the wall quite a lot. He's and this kind of carries on from last year. Um, is it Latifi or is it the car? What is the issue with him? He crashed in qualifying yesterday. He crashed in the race today. Um, there's just Alex Albon seems to have no problem bringing that car home. Okay, he got unlucky towards the end of the race. He got hit by. I think he got hit by. Who did he get hit by? Somebody hit him.
He was with Lance Stroll, but I still, at the end of the day, I think it was a racing incident.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Williams? I just genuinely, I really feel for that team. They've got such pedigree over the decades, and now to be where they are, and there was new owners. We I suppose we all kind of we all campaigned for Claire Williams to step down, to have new leadership. They've got some big sponsors behind them. They've got big money behind them in Doralton Capital. Josh Capito at the helm, who is a very, very, very I know you don't like him, but he's very, very experienced when it comes to running race teams, especially from the rally side of things where it could get quite heated. He's Everything seems to be there, everything's in place, but just the one thing that's letting them down is Latifi. What do you think?
I totally agree. I mean, just to clear one thing up, I don't mind Josh Capito. I think he's probably the best boss for the for the team at the moment, considering the resources they've got. I think, hey, it's the car. It doesn't work. They can't get the tub right. The second problem is they've got a boat anchor remoter with a Mercedes badge on it, which doesn't work. But I think Latifi himself, I think his days are numbered. I mean, clearly, he's got dad's money. There's got a good contract for this season. I think for 23, he won't be there. He'll be moved on. I mean, they're going to lose all, Nick's dad's, cash with Safina sponsorship all over the rear wing. But I think they're just going to have to. Dalton Capital's going to have to find money from somewhere and get another driver in. Whether they poach one of the F2 drivers who has cash behind him, another paid driver for the seat or whatever. But I don't think they can warrant keeping Latifi in that seat because, as you said, he went into quali. Now the quali Prix, I think, might have been a suspension failure, and then whatever happened during the race, he's bent the car again. It's just. I'll be interested to see, what he does when I go to Melbourne in 2 weeks and what he can deliver there. I mean, if he can bring the car home, it'll be a miracle. As long as he doesn't bin it. I think if he bins it again, they're really going to be starting to put the vice on his neck saying, mate, how much longer are you going to be here for? I think his days are numbered. Even if he sees the end of the season out, I don't know, but I'm sure his contract will say it unless it's completely... Unless there's a huge get-out clause there for the team to say your performance has warranted us moving you on mid-season. But the question is, who do they put in the car?
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely got to happen soon. They can't carry on like this. I mean, I suppose Alex Albon being at the team is a breath of fresh air. He's got his Red Bull backing. They just need to find. I feel it anyway. I don't want to crush Latifi, but I've never been a fan of him, to be honest. There's nothing about him that's ever excited me. He just kind of he's a kind of a go steady Eddie, but he's making mistakes. If you look at what George Russell did with that car, and even look what he did with the Mercedes. I mean, in this race in Saudi Arabia, he's able to get a result out of inadequate equipment, and you can clearly see that okay, the Mercedes is not up to scratch, or maybe he's just got the setup of it just right, but he's able to. I think he managed a P5 He pretty much stayed P5 for the whole race. He definitely made the right move leaving Williams, because that I think Latifi, he's either going to have to move up the grid, or he's going to have to. I don't even think I don't even think he's worthy of moving up the grid. I think he should be. I think there's other drivers that could be put in there. Um, we'll see. We'll see what happens. What do you think of this track? I've likened it to if Canada and Monaco had a baby, then Saudi Arabia would be born out of it. Um, it's I'll start that again. If if oh my god, my head! I'm so tired. It's fucking COVID. If I've likened the track to if Canada and Monaco had a baby, Saudi Arabia would be that baby. It's fast, it's twisty, it's dangerous, it's quite strategic. You need to make sure that qualifying is very important. We've seen today some overtaking, but it's very dependent on DRS. Um, what do you think of the track? Let's just say, let's have a really frank conversation for a second, right? There's been a lot of conversation over the last couple of days since the missile strike into the oil refinery nearby. So both from a political standpoint and from a pure racing standpoint, should we be racing in Saudi Arabia? Um, I'll let you give your opinion first, and then I'll follow up afterwards. Should we be racing in Saudi Arabia? Should we continue? Balance it, consider the racing, consider the track, consider that race today, but also consider the political side of it. What do you think? Should we be there or not?
Politically, no. For the circuit, yes. But it'd be a case of putting the circuit in another country where there's less political spotlight cast onto it. There's one thing I did ask was any questions or comments to be discussed during this podcast, and Craig Johnson sent me a text message and said, "Is the money involved in F1 worth the racing in the countries like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or is buying your way into the good books of normal humans worth the bank balance to F1?" Um, I think there's so much discussion about countries that have humanitarian rights. I mean, why do we go to Bahrain? Why do we go to China? Um, why are we going to go to Vietnam when it was planned? Why do we go to Saudi Arabia? Why do we go to Qatar? I mean, everyone, you can name any circuit, but why do we come to Australia with our history of, what we've done over the last 200 plus years to the First Nations people here? I mean, humanitarian rights are going to be questioned on any country that we go to. The thing is, with Aramco being the major sponsor of F1, it's got to be their home race. I mean, they're going there for political reasons because they're suiting the sponsor to say, right, come to our place and have a race. I mean, Jackie Stewart on the grid made a comment, years ago, nobody would come to Saudi Arabia as a tourist at all. It just wasn't feasible. And he said, look at this place now. I'm not saying that, the place is improving with the humanitarian role at all or anything like that, but I think the face of it is changing in terms of the tourism dollar and attracting people like that, and the race is attracting tourists to go there. But is the potential risk, as we saw with that, missile attack on the oil refinery, too great for the drivers and the teams to risk it? I mean, the team bosses are going to think they've got 100 plus staff there at every race. They look after their welfare. And I mean, Toto Wolff made a comment the other day. He said probably the safest place at the moment in Saudi Arabia to actually be is at the Jeddah circuit. So to answer Craig's question, I think it's having an oil sponsor of F1 is, that sort of goes hand in hand with motorsport, having a fuel supplier, oil manufacturer. But I think going to Saudi Arabia is the wrong choice. But I like the circuit. It reminds me of Valencia a bit with just all the concrete walls and no runoff. But I think it's potentially the Valencia circuit on steroids because of the speed they carry. I think it's just unreal, and it really does push driver and the car to its limit. But I just wish the circuit was in another country for political reasons.
Yeah. There's been mixed views in, I know, reading through the group and looking across the internet. If we were not to race in every country that had either human rights issues or were at war with a neighboring country, we wouldn't be fucking racing anywhere, you know. In fairness, you know, the whole Russia thing and the sanctions determined us not Formula One not going to Russia. Had there not been sanctions imposed on Russia, I would imagine that the race would still go ahead. The only way that we're not going to race in Saudi Arabia is if they impose sanctions, if the rest of the world impose sanctions on Saudi Arabia. If it's to be determined, do we race there because there was a missile strike very close to the track, then if you apply that same thinking to Brazil, we shouldn't be racing in Brazil because the crime and, okay, it's not missiles, but you know, the amount of, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what year it was, but if you go back a while, so Jenson Button, I think it was Jenson Button that was involved in it in Brazil, that the car was hijacked or something, or he was, you know, they were trying, there was an attempted kidnap in Brazil. I think it was like 2011 or 2012 or something like that. I can't remember the exact date, but I think it's around then. I mean, there was no calls back then to, oh, we shouldn't be racing in Brazil because it's too dangerous, because the drivers can't even get back to their hotel without being held at gunpoint or, you know, potentially kidnapped. So I'm on the fence. I'm going to do my usual here, and because I can't decide whether we should stay in Saudi Arabia or not, there's fors and againsts. I don't agree with what Saudi Arabia are doing to Yemen. I think that's unfair. You know, they've brought an entire nation to the brink of starvation, and something else I pointed out in the comments in the group the other day, that there was retaliation to that missile strike. The Saudis retaliated and sent missiles into Yemen a few hours after that missile strike in Jeddah, but you don't read about that in the headlines. That wasn't mentioned. So, and then fast forward as well, and I want your opinion on how what you think might have went down in that meeting. But that meeting last night after qualifying, there was a feeling that the Saudi bosses, along with Formula One management, who probably had their hands tied as well. You know, if you're sat in the room with the people that are dishing out millions and millions to bring that race to Saudi Arabia, you've got to be very careful what you say. And I'm sure a lot of the drivers were vocal, you know, wore their feelings on their sleeve and made their feelings quite clear, but were probably told to hush yourself down there, sit down, calm down, keep it zipped, because there's a lot bigger factors at play in that whole politics side of it. But what do you think went on in that meeting? I think it was a case of, okay, we'll race this time, but there's gonna be, I would guess that if things don't change in Saudi Arabia, I don't think a lot of drivers will end up going to that race next year. I think it'll be boycotted before the calendar is even announced. What do you think?
Yeah, I know this is the second race in Saudi Arabia, and I believe they've got a 10-year contract. So I don't know how they're going to get out of that contract unless there is some get out clause again in that contract. Um, I think the drivers, obviously, in that meeting, they expressed their concerns and wanted verification that they are safe to remain in the country. Um, is is there a chance it's going to be boycotted? It could be. I mean, they've boycotted for less in the past. I know they did it for the apartheid reasons in South Africa in the 80s. Um, yeah, and they've boycotted races for other lesser reasons. I mean, if you go back to, I think it was Indianapolis '05, and they boycotted because of the Michelin tyres. There was only half a dozen cars on the grid. It'll be interesting to see what happens next year, but I think potentially in 12 months' time, a nation's not going to, change its ways within 12 months just because of a motorsport race for 2 hours. I can't see that happening. But while on the circuit of the Saudi, on the topic of the Saudi circuit, I just want to clarify. There was another question from Julian and Anton Bray. This is going away from the politics, more back to the technical side of the Saudi circuit. What is your opinion on those curbs? Should they be removed or not? Now, this sort of leads us into Mick Schumacher's praying. Now, he got it all bagged up, obviously, because he got unsettled on those curbs around turn 10. And my question is, should they get rid of the curbs and make it a completely flat surface like the LaSalle circuit in Qatar, where there is no curbs because it means it's effectively the Qatar circuit is a motorbike circuit, MotoGP and so forth. If they get rid of the curves at the Jeddah Street circuit, is it going to make it any safer? And we might not have seen Mick Schumacher's accident if there was no curb to run up and get the car unsettled with. What's your thoughts, Tony?
It is a thought that keeps crossing my mind every time I see those rear shots of the cars, flat out through the corners. I said it at the start of last year, even during free practice, that this racetrack is going to turn into a bit of a shit show unless they widen it out, and make it a little bit, more flowing. I think you said after last year that they should slow it down. They should actually make it slower. There is changes that need to happen, and like I said, that is something that's crossed my mind. I think I would agree. I don't know if you said it, or I'm actually not sure if I'm agreeing with you or not here now, but the sausage curbs are too high for the speed of the track and for how narrow it is, and for the lack of runoff. I believe those curbs could be painted flat into the tarmac, and then use the track limits rule to enforce the just to police the whole track limits thing a bit better. Mick got unlucky. He lost control through turn 9, or even before he got to turn 10. He was kind of already trying to correct himself. But with the level of downforce that's in these cars and how much they're bottoming, we talk about porpoising, right? Porpoising is where the car almost bottoms out, detaches, bottoms out, detaches, and yet they've got fucking 3-inch curbs. I think the intention was to keep the drivers off the curbs, but for those drivers that want to venture onto those curbs, you pay the price. So again, I'm on the fence, because do we take away the sausage curbs and make it easier for the drivers? Probably not. We should be making it as difficult as possible. These are the best drivers in the world. This is the pinnacle of motorsport. They don't need cotton wool wrapped around them. I mean, build the concrete walls up, put in high sausage curbs, and if they crash, then, well, you're clearly not the best driver. Uh, it's a tough. I don't think there's a black and white answer for it. I think in places the curbs could be taken down a smidge, just to kind of help. Um, I mean, it is becoming a bit of an accident black spot that that them kind of those turns down the back. 9, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We've seen no end of cars going off there, whether it be in free practice, in qualifying, and the race. I think after this year they probably will make changes, but should they? I don't know. I don't know where. I think I'm kind of leaning towards leave it as it is. Make it dangerous. Make it almost impossible for the drivers to race it. And let's see let's separate the men from the boys.
Well, I vote to get rid of the sausage curve. Just make it flat. That's my view, my opinion.
Um, let's talk about Perez. Oh my lord! When it comes to bad luck, Perez is just he. It's almost like it's unbelievable sometimes the amount of bad luck that he gets. He qualified first. He did the lap of his life in qualifying, and then to be leading the race right up until there was a bit of a bluff. I don't know if it was a bluff call or not, or whether Ferrari were just told to do the opposite to Perez. But like to be fucking fourth after the safety car, and then well, I think he was potentially third after the safety car, but then he had to give the place back to Sainz because Sainz was ahead of him coming out of the pits. He was ahead of that safety car line. So unfortunately, yeah, he had to give that place back. But just how unlucky is Perez?
I mean, he dialed in for his 11th year in F1 with the number 11 on the car. He dialed in, the dream lap of his career to take his first pole. But then I think, no discredit to him, I think he could have potentially kept the win going. But I think if it wasn't for the, safety car coming out and pit strategy and so forth, I think that threw it. And then there was the time where Sainz has come out of the pit and claimed the position in front of him. So I think that sort of played into it a bit. I think he's more a victim of circumstance rather than the car or the circuit going against him. I'll say Checo's a victim of circumstance in this instance, and I think he's probably going to grab another win this season. I mean, he's shown what he can do with the Red Bull, and he's not scared to take it to max either. I think we've seen him. We've seen him win before. I think he'll come back, but this wasn't to be the weekend. At least he's got a pole out of the weekend. Yeah, but I think he'll move on and regather his thoughts and regather himself and keep delivering for the team.
He's good, but at the same time he wasn't able to pass Saints. So Saints was third. He was right behind him on the restart. Max was able to pass Leclerc, but Perez wasn't able to pass Sainz. So equal machinery, yeah, tough one. I really don't know what to make of it. I just thought I think everybody that was watching that race, and even for our listeners, if we fucking have any, like it was just my heart absolutely sank for Perez. Delighted to see him getting the pole yesterday. I think at this stage anybody but Hamilton, anybody but the same old pole sitters. It was nice and refreshing. I think that could pretty much sum up Saudi Arabia is the word refreshing. The whole thing was refreshing. There was racing, there was battles. The FIA, I think the way they implemented the rules, I think was was well done. I wouldn't fault them. Um, I know there's a few things still under investigation after the race, but I think for the most part it should pretty be straight. It should be pretty straightforward. Um, it was just refreshing. The whole thing was refreshing. It was great to see Alonso and Ocon fighting. It was great to see Hulkenberg, up in the points at one stage, although he went backwards after the safety car. That's a horrible feeling. Um, it was great to see Magnussen and Hamilton, and for Magnussen to stick it to Hamilton, and they were swapping and changing, and the whole thing was just refreshing. It was really good to see a race and not be switching it off at the podium ceremonies, thinking to yourself, well, yeah, well, there's another 1-2 for Mercedes, and it's a nice change. I'm really happy with the way everything's worked out with this season. It's everything that we predicted. It was everything that we were told, or that was hinted to that would happen. I'm just not. And I know. I was talking to Ashley Ford the other day. McLaren, what the fuck? Seriously, lads. It was a bit of an improvement this race, but I'll remove them from that whole refreshing statement that I made. Fucking hell, McLaren. What the How many times are you gonna put fans through this? You know, it's like trying to or trying to scratch an itch, but your fingers just not long enough. It's like we just get there and then bang. Here we are. Here we go again. It's engine trouble. It's brake trouble. It's so disappointed in McLaren. This is the second week in a row now I've said it. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's great that F1 has redesigned the rigs for the cars. We're seeing the racing and the competition that they wanted us to be witness to. So that's been delivered. How many times could you have said previously, like Kevin Magnussen and Haas is going to pull DRS open and go around Lewis Hamilton or go wheel to wheel with him in the Mercedes? I think if you'd said that to somebody 2 seasons ago, they'd say you're kidding.
You wouldn't believe it.
But now it's happening. And it's a beautiful sight because, we've got a really mixed grid, a mixed field of racing, and it's constant. Jenson Button made the comment, they were watching this stoush between the two Alpines for about 10 minutes, and he said, yeah, we forgot who's at the front because we're watching this battle. And that's what I think's the great thing about these changing the rules of regs. It's really delivered some good results, and the cars all through the field are battling with each other. I think it's awesome. Even if Mercedes are struggling, they've been at the front for a while. Williams are at the front for a long time. Now look at them. It's a cyclical thing of comes and goes, swings and roundabouts. I think it's just a cycle, and if you look at a bell curve, I think Mercedes is probably on the downward slope now, and they can't stay at the top forever.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I've got a feeling that at some point it's going to all kind of level out. That it's all going to level out a bit, and Mercedes eventually will creep their way back to the front. But I'm just hoping that there's enough development in Red Bull and Ferrari, and even possibly Haas or even Alpine. Alpine were doing pretty well today until Alonso cooked his engine. But yeah, I'll reserve my judgment for another couple of races. I think when we get back to the classic races, I think when we get to the back to the likes of Spa, Silverstone, Monaco, tracks that we know, even Melbourne in 2 weeks' time, tracks that we know. Well, actually, Melbourne is a bit of a change. They've changed the layout in Melbourne, so that'll be a bit of an unknown. So that'll throw up a few curveballs, but I think it's going to take another couple of races, but so far so good. I'm really pleased with the way things are working out, except for McLaren. I've thrown up the tyre strategy, the pit stop strategy that was used for the race. For those on YouTube, you should be able to see this screen share. For those that are listening to us, if we have any listeners, I'm not quite sure if we do, but if we have any listeners on Spotify, I just thought it was interesting that Magnussen and Hamilton both started on used hard tyres, and Hamilton was able to take a used set of hard tyres 40 laps and then do a one-stopper and then onto the mediums. And even Magnussen went from used hards to used mediums. It's fascinating.
That's what I was about to say. Nobody at all used the C4 soft tyre. It was all done on hards and mediums.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you said, Magnussen did 37 laps with used boots, and then he came back and got a used boots and set of mediums. I mean, that is just unreal. And you think for the speed, like, would they've gone much faster if they'd done the final? I mean, potentially, Hamilton could have come in on lap 40 with those used hards. I mean, why didn't he go out and set of softs? I mean, one person asked the question in the group thread, if he's this far back, why did he put on a set of softs and just try and detonate the car to, get beyond 10th and maybe even go for 9th place? I just find it fascinating that nobody used the softs at all.
Well, it's no surprise, really. I mean, it was so flipping hot out there. And these cars, one thing we're learning about these cars is that there is the high degradation on the tyres. And even if you look at the medium tyre, you look at the stints that I think Ricardo, where is he? Where's Ricardo? Yeah, second from the bottom there. Ricardo came in and changed his tyres after 8 laps, with the intention of going long then on the hard tyre. Unfortunately, he only made it to 35 laps, but you see there 15 or 16 laps on a medium tyre. Like, the soft tyre would have been gone in 6 laps or 8 laps. It wouldn't have lasted at all. It would have been absolutely pointless. The only way that soft tyre would have been used was if there was an advantage for going for fastest lap. If there was a big enough gap to the car behind you that you could pit stop, put on the red soft C4 tyre and go out and do a fast lap, and get that extra point, get that extra point towards the championship. But it wasn't really possible to do. So yeah, I think that also gives us the kind of the top 10, the finishing order as well. I think Russell did very well to get P5. Ocon did very, very well to get P6. It was nice to see Norris in 7th. He was, after the disaster that McLaren have had to the start of this season, some points on the board now, which will please us. Gasly didn't really get seen the whole race. He just kind of kept his head down, minding his own business. Tsunoda had a problem on the outlap to the grid, so actually never made it onto the grid. Magnussen, brilliant. P9, brilliant result. I think if Schumacher had made it through qualifying, possibly might have been knocking on the door of the points. Maybe it would have had some battles. Zhou had a good result for Alfa Romeo. Hulkenberg, although he's only sitting in for Vettel at the moment, and he's only the reserve driver, was still able to beat Stroll. Go on, have an opinion there. What do you think about the whole Hulkenberg and Stroll thing in Aston Martin?
Well, I don't know. Look, I've got an opinion on Stroll. I don't rate the bloke, but I think Hulkenberg's doing the best he can. I mean, he did the same tyre strategy as Magnussen. Used hards, came in lap 37 onto used mediums. I mean, somebody raised the question to me the other day, is Vettel even going to come back? Is he going to walk away from this season and just say, look, I've had a completely shit season last year with Aston Martin. It might just waste my time. I might as well just, as I said in the previous podcast, he might just go home to Switzerland and tinker with his old motorbikes and have more fun doing that than dragging himself around the world just to fight in the back of the field in a car with a shit engine. I mean, you had to get one turn on this circus we call planet Earth. I mean, he's just questioning, wasting his time fighting for nothing. I mean, really? I mean, Hulkenberg may end up in that seat for the rest of the season.
Where do you think Vettel would have placed if he was racing? Do you think he would have been ahead of Hulkenberg, or would he have split them, or would he have been behind Stroll?
Based on what I've seen of the performance of that car, I think he would have been struggling to get into the points. I think he might have been in Joe's place at 11th at best.
Do we know why Bottas retired? I actually missed it on the live feed. I saw them retiring the car, but I didn't pick up on the reason why they were retiring the car. Do you know?
I don't know why he retired. I know that I could presume the car overheated like so many others did.
Okay.
Because he seemed to be not having any trouble, and he came into pit, I believe, and then he came back in the next lap after that. Now, I just want to make a comment on a side issue. I've just got a tweet that Alex Albon's been handed a 3-place grid penalty and 2 penalty points for his run-in with Stroll, which I think is just a joke.
What?
I think it was just
Are
a
you
racing
serious?
incident. I think it's just. I'm dead serious. I was going to tweet about a minute ago. I just read it and went, that is a joke."
Fucking hell.
No, that is just a ridiculous penalty. Absolutely.
I take it back. The stewards are knobs. That's two races in a row now. I think they give was it Ocon last race in where were we? Bahrain. They gave him two penalty points for an incident, and like that's I think they're trying to make a point, aren't they? The stewards, they're really trying to enforce the rules early on in the season. Like, if you want to go toe to toe with another driver, keep it clean. If you're not clean, then you're going to get issued with penalty points. So I think that might have a bit of an adverse effect going forward into the season now, because you're going to have drivers not necessarily taking too many risks, and then the whole the racing thing will start to dilute, and we'll be looking back and saying, well, the first 2 races were brilliant, but the rest of the season was just a parade. Did Stroll actually finish the race? Because I'm looking here that he did, or was it that he was lapped? Stroll, he changed his tyres. He went out on used mediums, lap 13. He pitted, and then he went out on hards, but he only did 49 laps. He didn't do the full 50. So I wonder, did he have an issue, or was it the fact that he was lapped?
He might have ended up with an issue after Albon went to the side of him, so he might have parked the car on that second last lap.
Okay, so I think we'll wrap up. I think we've covered pretty much everything that we wanted to talk about. There's obviously a lot more that we could dive into, but I think overall, if I was to sum up, I'll get your summary there in a second. But I think, like I said, it was really refreshing to be at this race. Whether we'll be here again next year, not quite sure. That'll depend on the drivers and Formula One management, and how vocal they are at making change, using the sport to make change, a positive change in those countries. I'm glad the race went ahead, because I'd been looking forward to the season starting for so long, as we all have, and to suddenly start having races cancelled now, that would be a bit of a disaster. We're off to Melbourne in 2 weeks' time now. I know you're going to the race. What's your plan actually? Are you going to be doing live trackside, or are you? Do you know what? Give us a quick rundown of what the plan is, who you're meeting up with, what stand you're going to be in, and what the plan is for the weekend.
So a quick rundown, flying to Melbourne Wednesday, hopefully get to the circuit for a bit of a walk around Wednesday afternoon with AJ and Lee. Thursday I'll be at the track. As soon as the gates open, I'll be in there. I'll have a mic in hand. I'll be doing live videos as I've done previously from various stands around the circuit. I've got a seat between turns 7 and 8 in a section called the balconies. Now, they haven't had stadium seats there for years, so it's good to open it up again. yeah, so all over the course of the weekend, I'll be doing live videos from different parts of the circuit just to give you the feel for the joint. Yeah, but for
Mm-hmm.
the live sessions, I will be sitting in the seat enjoying the action. Then Friday night, I got the AGM with an auction. Dan Boyle's throwing more items at me and sell at the auction, so that'll be good.
What is that? Explain to the listeners what that is. And my second question is: are you wearing the race suits?
No, I'm not wearing the race suit, and Friday night at the AGM is our annual general meeting of the members. It's a
Oh, okay.
chance for the group members to get together and have a beer and put a face to a name you see in the group. And we're raising money for the Black Dog Institute for mental health and suicide intervention.
Brilliant.
That'll be at the Royal Mail Exchange Hotel on a Friday night. Everyone's welcome to come along, of course.
What time?
Yeah, but just getting back to the circuit action itself, I will be doing live videos, especially Thursday. I'll try and get a fair few done just to explain different corners. And because on Thursday you can sit in different stands. There's no requirement. Do you have to stay at your stand on Thursday? It's all just open slather.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to it. And my thoughts, just wrapping up the show, I'm 50-50 whether we will go back to Saudi Arabia. Maybe the drivers might say, no, look, sorry, it's not worth it for the potential damage to the cars and politically to not go back there. But, contracts are contracts, you've got to stick to them.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately.
Making a bold prediction for the season, I'd like to see Bottas get a podium in that Alfa Romeo. I think that would just be a great credit to the team and for backing him after his departure from Merck. I think to see a Ferrari customer engine on the podium would be great, even if on all out saying even if K-Mag can deliver one for Haas and get a top five, I think for them that'd be a great redemption.
I think a lot of stars need to align for things like that to happen. You need the perfect storm of tire strategy, pit stops, safety cars, probably some of the top teams having issues either mechanically or whatever. There is, COVID is quite rampant. I'm only just actually getting over it myself, but it's back rampant again. So we may see a lot more of the reserve drivers playing a role in this season. Maybe not. So yeah, I think it was a good race. I'm very happy that I was here to witness it. I think we'll wrap up with that. For those that have listened to us and have stayed listening to us this long, thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe on the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. It helps. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We might have a podcast in between here in Melbourne. We're not quite sure yet, but yeah, look, if you've got anything to say or you don't agree with anything that we've said, let's kick it off in the comments and let's have a discussion about it. We may even use some of the comments in the next episode of the podcast and as talking points. So get involved. You can message me directly. You can message Durko directly. Or you can post something in the group, F1 Armchair Experts at Facebook. And yeah, until next time, from Rowdy Arabia, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from him. One final comment is I'm not going to talk about Daniel Ricciardo and McLaren at this stage because I've made an appointment with my psychiatrist to clear that up. Anyway, it's goodbye from me, and I'll see you guys live from Melbourne. Thanks, Tony.
All right, man. Take it easy. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.